Okay, today I'm recording direct voter contact persuasion conversations. I'm gonna occasionally show the screen since I can't get it in on one shot, but that's what we're gonna do, and we'll make it work. So thank you so much. All right, welcome everybody. Very excited. Fourth day, ready to get into it. So today we are going to transition into our voter contact phase. All right, who remembers what that is? Right, yes, it is the second phase in those phases and functions, the thing we learned on day one. All right, round one, we were talking mostly about for the past couple of days, we were just talking about capacity building, right? We were talking about that first big function, and what do we do in capacity building? Really quick, someone give me a quick shout out. Yep, absolutely. Yep, that's great as well. Yeah, all of those fall under everything we've been talking about. Volunteer recruitment, building our team, the team model, all of that. The event planning, recruiting, all of it. The hard ask. That is mainly about the capacity building phase, which we're always doing throughout the course of this, but it's all leading up to do one simple thing: reach out to voters. So let's go over our agenda, what we're going to cover today, and then I really want to talk about how we're going to zoom all in on this. So, if someone can read for me up here at the top, our purpose, we are going to learn and apply voter contact best practices on the phone, at the door, and online using ID and persuasion scripts. So, that's our main focus on the day. Let that sink in. And what we're going to do, we're going to recognize the different kinds of direct voter contact tactics and events, and how each fits into a broader organizing strategy. We're going to summarize and distinguish the different approaches and scripts used in direct voter contact. So we're going to really start honing in on this stuff. And we're going to demonstrate knowledge of voter contact best practices by participating in a voter contact phone bank, canvas, and text bank using both ID and persuasion scripts. So we're going to really get in the nitty gritty. All right. We're going to get in the muck. We're going to see what's going on. And that's how we are going to best make sure we interact with this. All right. And then walking through our journey here, we've got our little introduction that we're kind of going through right now. Then secondly, we're going to map our voter contact. So we're going to just walk through exactly how we're going to learn about it. We're going to make sure we get everyone acquainted with how it's going to work. Our personal case, you're going to look inside yourself. Persuasion conversations framework, kind of how we're physically going to do these conversations. Role play, so we get you guys in the game. Stretch your legs, make sure we persuade each other. And then we're going to debrief and close, as always, in a nice, peaceful way of this campaign. All right, so we got right here our classic phases and functions of an electoral campaign. Who can tell me what we're doing in each? Great job. Yep, and we're looking right back in here. So, direct voter contact, those are basically all the things that we need to do to win. All right, and who are we talking to? We're talking about voter contact. Just talking to anybody? Yeah, those are good guesses. But yeah, no, we have modern data and science. All right, Netflix exists. They know every single thing that you watch. They have a top 10 for every single person in the streaming network. It's crazy. So we know, we have a good sense of who it is we should be talking to. And a lot of that ways we can represent right here with our good old voter universe. We're going to look back at that, and this is going to help us understand who, our direct voter contact universe is. So, based on this grid right here that you are looking at, we've got, like I said, our x-axis that we've talked about. That's our turnout from low, medium to high. And then our support from low, medium to high on the y-axis, as we've covered, and divided up into each of these quadrants. So which of these boxes are we reaching out to when it comes to capacity building, right? So are we reaching out to medium turnout and high support? What block is that? Okay, great. Yeah, no. So for capacity building, exactly right. We're working in the top right corner. The high turnout, the high support, those are the people we are most likely to get to be able to recruit to talk to these other voters. All right, now when we get into voter contact, all right, we're talking to three mainly different types of people. All right, now are we talking to everybody on this graph? Right, no, as we mentioned in the previous one, we have a limited time, we've got limited resources, we have to decide who we're going to talk to strategically, who's going to get us to that 50% plus one. That's going to be the most important. So, one of the conversations we're going to have, and we're going to have a deep dive on this in this module, is persuasion conversations. The people that we need to go to their doors and convince them to support a Democrat. Where on this graph might we be having persuasion conversations? So would it be medium turnout, medium support? Where might that be? Okay, yes, that great guess, exactly right, but it's actually going to be in the high turnout, high support section. So that is mainly because, as you just mentioned, those people are going to vote, but they're not sure who. They're not sure what is they stand for, or they don't understand maybe everything of what they're all about. That's what we're going to talk to. So yeah, that's our persuasion universe. That's where those people will live, and those are the types of people we're going to be talking to. We're going to talk about when we talk to them. We're going to talk to them all about how we talk to them. It's a very unique situation. All right, then we're also going to be focusing on voter registration tomorrow. All right, those people that we want to register, where in this graph do they live? Haha, got him. Trick question. They don't live in that universe. We want to get them in that universe. Come on in. It's safe. The water's warm. We have really got to make sure that we target those people. And there's ways that we can understand, like, we're probably not going to go on a farm in Pennsylvania to go and register. We might go to, Market Street, downtown Philly, right? There's going to be certain locations and certain states and areas and programs that are going to do this differently. They're going to have different goals. And if you're working for Jamie Harrison, running for Senate down in South Carolina, there are 400,000 unregistered Black eligible voters in South Carolina. So that might be part of the program, whereas that might not be as much in, say, Luzerne County, Pennsylvania. Maybe will be. Who knows? And then let's talk about our turnout people. This is going to be something we talk about more in GOTV, but it's in the voter contact universe. Where might they live on this? Yeah, exactly. So medium turnout. They don't always turn out, but when they do, they're in our lane. Those are sporadic voters. Those are people we're going to talk to more when it comes time for GOTV. All right? So really, really good job, guys. Is there any questions right now that I can have about this or who we're talking to, etc.? Okay. All right. All right, so let's map our journey through what we're going to do, all right? Now, what I'm going to have is I'm going to have my TA, my lovely TA over here. We're going to have a bunch of lists of our responses, and I really want to think this out with you guys. All right, we got two questions going on at the same time. I want to talk about the first one, and then we'll move to the second one. All right, so when do we have conversations with voters? Very good. Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, second on the phone. Yep, for sure. Absolutely. Good stuff. Yeah, so really, it's kind of a trick question. All right, but it's important. I wanted you to brainstorm, because if you're getting creative about this, you'll realize we're talking to people everywhere. We're talking to them on the phone, at the door, in line at the grocery store, at the barbershop. We're doing a lot. We're going everywhere. Right? If people are going to talk to us and they're going to support our candidate, we want to talk to them. And there is no reason we should shy away from that. None whatsoever. Let's lean into that. There is no place that we are not organizing. We are always organizing. And that can be, like I said, in line at the grocery store. It could be at your coffee shop talking to your barista. Many an organizer story about shifting / registering their barista to vote. So those are all really, really powerful, in organizing tactics. And when it comes to where, all right, so where are we doing this? Kind of mentioned it already when we go canvassing, so on the doors for sure. Great job. Make sure we have that all down. Great. Yep, where, like I said, like in a grocery store, at night. I'm thinking maybe in like in a church, community space. Awesome. Those are so great. Yeah. Thanks for writing that down. And once again, everywhere, right? Everywhere. If we're having a conversation and you've got your pin out, you've got your hat for nebulous candidate, future nominee, and they're like, I love X. You were like, I love X too. And you go from there. Every opportunity is an opportunity. And I know that's a little theoretical. You're like, oh, okay, you could have just led with that. Being creative is such an important part of doing this. We talked about digital, right? People live every single place. We have so many different tactics of reaching people where they're at. So getting creative and realizing that anytime, any space is a location for organizing is essential. That being said, there are three main places where a lot of these direct voter contact events happen, right? Where we're going to, have the most chance and be the most organized with speaking to these people, right? So we got our voter registration drive. It's a classic move. Who has ever been a part of one or staged one of these? Yep. Oh yeah. How did that go? Excellent. Amazing. And then our classic organizer ones that probably some of you might be more familiar with if you've organized or volunteered in the past are door-to-door canvas. So literally knocking doors and, IDing, persuading, all of that jazz, and a classic phone bank and a text bank. Has anyone participated in one of these before or ran one? That's awesome. Yeah, raise your hands. That's awesome. Loud and proud. Yeah, so these are some of the ones we are going to really talk about, right? These are the kind of events that we're going to spend the majority of our time thinking about. And luckily, we have good science and data on who to reach out to at these types of events, where to go. And, thankfully, we live in an age of science and data. But at the same time, this human interaction that you have, such as going to a door or knocking on a phone, talking on the phone is 10 times more compelling than any single thing that we could do individually. So let's get into that. All right. So when we're talking to somebody, even though we have all this data, the first thing that we ask is their ID. All right. So when you knock on a door, what do we think an ID is in campaign world? It's not your fake. It's not like, oh no, my literal license. I'm from New York. I can't drive. Whatever. No, it is not that. Sadly, we're not talking about your physical ID cards. We're not talking about any of that. What we mean by ID is your support score, right? So for our candidate, we're going to take the fictional example of Bernardo, right? We're going to see where this person lies. We might be talking to them because we think they support him, but people are strange. People are not dots on a graph, right? If they were, 538 would have gotten it right, and we all wouldn't have to be here. I wish, but here we are. Our stars are crossed. Anyway, we want to first decide that because that's going to change the nature of our conversation. If they're a supporter, we probably want to maybe recruit that person. Maybe they're further up in our graph than we thought. Maybe they're actually a Republican and we're wasting our time. So I want to go through really quick to identify what some of our responses should be when we try to ID a person. So what kind of question do you ask when we ID someone? It's right up on here. Basically, yeah, we want to ask, can Bernardo count on your support? Yeah, really simple. Yes, no, maybe, so, right? We're going to get a huge amount of responses. That is your big question. A variation of that question is going to be on every single script that you will get. All right. Now, my TA, we have our little scale here. So strong support is a 5, right? A 5, that's going to represent strong support. We can just say strong support 5 interchangeably. That's kind of a lingo that'll exist. One is strong opposed for our candidate, Bernardo. They're opposed to Bernardo. And then 3 is undecided. Oh my God, I don't know. And then, of course, 2 and 4 scales along that scale. And that's typically what you'll use in a traditional packet. So the list that you'll get and you'll knock on or make phone calls with. So let's look at this question. I've got it right up here on the board. We've got, can Bernardo count on your support? And I just want you to use your thinking skills. We'll walk through it together. What would your response be? As in, what should you do? Should you recruit this person to volunteer? Should you end the conversation? Should you just ID them? Should you persuade them? Should you do both? Right? There's a lot of those options. So of those main options, what would we do? All right, so I'm going to get in character. All right, I'm going to read the responses for this question. Can Bernardo count your support? And I want to see what you guys got. So, I'm a huge fan of Bernardo's vision and agree with him that we need to act immediately to protect our oceans. What do we think here? Oh my God. Yeah, there are 5, right? They're in. They know about his ocean policy, all right? That's called a good voter, a good citizen. So what will we do with them? Yeah. We're going to recruit them to volunteer. That is a person where you're like, oh my God, that is so great. Well, you know what? And you just go right on into it because you're a good freaking organizer. There's nothing more impressive than recruiting at the door. We love that. All right, let's next one. Can Bernardo count your support? Absolutely not. Bernardo will never have my vote. What are we doing here? You're very optimistic. I really appreciate that. But what is one of the biggest resources a campaign has? Time. Yeah, it's probably not worth our time to talk to this guy. He's already in. There's other people out there who haven't made up their mind. Probably more useful of, don't pull your teeth out with someone who, just doesn't get it. All right? We want to focus on the people we can win over, we can turn out, we can register, etc. So most likely, you're going to end this conversation. All right, next one. So I just moved, and I'm not registered to vote here. Well, what are you doing? Come on. Hop on board. Yeah, you're going to register this person to vote, for sure. And then you're going to ID them. All right? You're going to be like, so who are you supporting? And they're going to be like, Bernardo, Save America, and the oceans and the algae. Awesome. Love to see that. And then the last one. The hidden gems of, the uncut gems of campaigns. I'm not sure yet. I'm on the fence. What do you think this one is? Ding, ding, ding. Yes, these are our persuasion conversation, folks. We love these people. They really make you put a full day in. This is what it's all about. This is where genuine people who don't really know, maybe they're not up on the linguistic, the what's going on, the talking points, the news. Maybe they check into politics once a week. My God, where are these people? What are they doing? But I want to visit. I want to take a trip there after November. But these people exist, and their impressions of what you have to say might be the thing that changes their mind the most. And that is why we're really investing in you guys, because a face of a real person who's not just like a nebulous Democrat, that can change minds. Because these people, there are persuadable people out there. They exist. We're going to go get them. We're going to go persuade them. So, I want to get this mojo. Not everything is going to be this clear and cut, so we're going to use that competitive muscle in us, because I know you're competitive, because our goal of our campaign is to win. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a voter contact game. So basically, I'm going to split the room right as is. We'll count off by ones and twos, actually. And I just want everyone to stand up. We're going to play this amazing game, and we're going to go through a bunch of, voter contact options, such as, voter you're talking to is not registered to vote. And we're going to have to compete first who can use our fake buzzer of our table, and then we're going to get right into it. So everyone stand up. I'm going to count off. We'll go in through the rules, and our TA is going to run this one right back here while I keep score, and we're going to get you guys all practiced up onto what some of this voter contact responses should be. All right, break. Okay, guys, I got heated there. Jeez, that was really great. Really impressed with all of that. Do we have any questions right now before we move on about that? Any ones that you were confused about, perhaps? Yes, no, maybe so. Okay, great. Remember, we have our parking lot, so if there's anything that you're thinking about later, or you have questions for me that maybe you don't feel comfortable asking in person, go ahead and take one of the stickies, use that. We really appreciate that, and that really does wonders for us. So, now I want to slow it back down a bit, because we're going to get into our personal case. We're going to talk about our own experiences. It's the best way to understand what's going on in somebody else's brain when we're trying to persuade them. It really is. And what I mean by that, talking to some stranger and persuading them to do something and talk about something pretty uncomfortable. What's the saying? They don't talk about religion or politics, right, socially, but that's literally what we're doing. Hi, I don't know you. Let's talk about politics, right? And these are so important, and they can be uncomfortable, and it's a muscle, I'll tell you. It's hard to do. When we were out in Iowa, right, like, there's a fair share of times when myself or my volunteers didn't leave it all in the field because these are conversations. They're tough. You got to get a lot in. And even when it came to that game we had before, it took, some of our organizers that were there for 3 months, we still had to have a training on what the appropriate response was to different responses that the voters would give. So this is going to help us understand what motivates people, what persuades people. And the best way to do that is to relate to you and what your experience is. So right here on page 53, I want everyone to take approximately 5 minutes, and I just want you to free write and think about a time that, you disagreed with someone and tried to persuade them. Like, how did you do it? What worked? What didn't? How might you do it differently? What did you learn from that? How did they relate to you, and what did you relate to them? Like, how did that work? So that's really important. You're going to take 5 minutes and do that. Just free write it all out. And then at the end of that, you share out in pairs for another 5 minutes. And I just want to get some summaries after that. So me and the TAs will be circulating. If you have any questions, we'll keep the time and we'll talk to you after. All right. Okay, guys. Great. I heard a lot of great discussion right there. That's really fantastic. So can someone share out what they learned from their partner? Yeah, absolutely. These are great. And like I said, these conversations, they're challenging, they're personal. You're trying to convince somebody to care about something that maybe they weren't thinking about, or maybe they didn't initially care about. And we're going to talk about a basic framework. It's not all comprehensive. People are confusing. People are different. You're not going to win 100% of the time. But a basic framework that we're going to talk about right now is going to maximize our ability to persuade people to our way of thinking. Also, just as an aside, I highly recommend the book How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It's a really impressive book. It's made in like the 40s, just about human psychology. It was revolutionary at the time. Basically how to get people to come to your line of thinking and how to work with people. It's a little dated. Some of the examples are like when Robert E. Lee walked. Yeah. So, but the actual lessons are very good, and I think it'll teach you a lot about this specific topic. But let's focus on the nitty-gritty, the basics that we're going to need to know, the principles of persuasion, and let's cover those right now. All right. So there's a bunch of different persuasion principles. There's 4 main ones that we're going to cover today that are going to be the most useful and necessary for you to know in our journey, navigating these persuasion conversations. All right. So why is persuasion important? All right, that's a really good question. Why are we spending our time talking to people? Isn't everyone just divided? Like, I'm pretty sure like everyone's in their corner. Well, they probably are on MSNBC, but like I said, there's these folks who like their daily news is Sports Center, right? Like, they get their news from Stephen A. You know, so we've really got to reach out to these folks and make sure that we're putting the information in their heads about what they should care about. So just the way that the demographics, the way that everything works out, we need both persuasion and turnout to win in these red areas, right? We need to close those margin in the rural areas and the red areas. We need to ramp them up in the blue. And we just are not going to be able to do this without changing some minds. It's in the math. It's in the data. All of the state parties that we are focusing on are thinking about this. We're thinking about this. And that's why it's going to be a big part of our, curriculum. Now, say it ain't so. Persuasion's tougher in a louder environment. And let me tell you something, guys. This is loud. If you've seen these debates, it's just like the decibels are literally so high. Like, I want to explode. But we've got a lot of information that people are being bombarded with, right? It's not just like, oh, my union boss is telling me I should go here. I'm going to pull the lever for X, right? Like, we don't live in that world anymore. We don't live in a world where the New York Times endorsement is going to just move somebody like that. We've got digital paid ads. We've got mailers. We've got those debates. We've got those lovely debates. We've got everyone on our field team. We've got hundreds of phone calls. There's a lot of information. It is very understandable why it is going to be more difficult to do this, right? But it matters, right? This stuff is not all reaching everybody. And talking to a person we know is just one of the most powerful methods of reaching out and communicating. And if we can do that, that can be the thing that sticks in someone's mind. Ads can be blocked, right? Mailers can be thrown out. But a human conversation, that sticks. And that's important. On that note, however, because of this, we got what's called decay over time. It's like a half-life. If anyone's taken the geography or geology class recently. So the timing of this is important. They might get information. This would happen in the primary all the time for us for Kamala. They might get information, and then that information might be challenged, or they might reassess and they'd hear stuff. So they'd be like, "Oh, I really don't like that." Blah blah blah. But they've got all this louder information on Facebook, on whatever they're throwing in their brains, and that conversation might not be as powerful, even if they agree with a sentiment that you are sharing with them. So, timing of this is going to be incredibly important, right? Early canvases, we might be different just IDing. Later on, closer to GOTV, would be heavier persuasion. It's going to depend on the program, but keeping those later and making sure we go closer to that turnout time is going to be really important. So, we're going to do a lot of persuasion, but the timing of it will probably be closer to a GOTV setting. And then the information you're actually sharing with them. That's one of the last principles, is telling people something they do not know. All right? People aren't going to know everything. I don't know everything. If someone was like, what was Kamala's ocean policy? I'd be like, oh my God. Like, did we have one? I don't know. But we did. But it's understandable. People can't roll off my farm plan, right, in a way that is comprehensive. But telling them information that does matter to them, that they're not going to hear otherwise, such as, great example, how Trump is litigating against the ACA in court right now while saying he supports pre-existing conditions, right? That's information that people might not be aware of, or the fact that he plans to cut Social Security and Medicare, right? Just examples. People might not know about that, and that is something that is going to stick with them, and it's going to probably stick with them longer than something they see that they're distrustful of on the news. A real person cared enough about that to come and see them. That's important. So keep this in mind with you. This is going to be incredibly important. It's going to guide the way that we do things. And now we're really going to get into like the actual nitty gritty of the logistics of you doing this. So right now we're going to watch a 2-minute video of Jason Gray, who's a former organizer with Obama, and then of course a training director on that campaign for Obama and Hillary. And we're going to talk about just what effective persuasion looks like, and we're going to discuss, and we'll go from there. So, all right, enjoy my boy Jason.
Okay, let's get back to it. We'll start with some general tips, and then we'll dig into how you're having the actual conversation. Tip number 1. Make sure you're talking to persuadable people. Now, that's hard to know, but if you're part of a program that's doing this well, then your team will have identified folks potentially open to being persuaded one way or another. And those are the doors you're going to be knocking on. Sometimes you'll find a voter who's got a really strong opinion developed already. That's okay. Just move on to the next door, because remember your goal is to talk to persuadable voters. Tip number 2. Remember that effective persuasion conversations are about listening. It's not about arguing your facts or saying every word on your script. That means asking questions like, what issues matter to you most? Or, what do you think? Tip number 3, build a relationship. I know it's difficult in a short time, and it's very important to be real. So the shortcut here is to use a tactic I call as someone who. Use it and you kind of force yourself to relate. Yes, I understand that as someone who works as a teacher. And remember, it does not need to be extreme, it just needs to be you. Tip number 4, you're not going to persuade someone in 30 seconds on the door. That's okay, because it's not your goal. It's to make a dent and help the person start to see it this way. Because remember, you literally cannot persuade someone. They're going to persuade themselves, and that takes time. Fortunately, your conversation isn't our only shot. It's part of a broader program where the campaign is going to engage the voter many times. Tip number 5, data, data, data. Other volunteers are going to be knocking on doors too. And you'll help others just like yourself if you record the information on the walk sheet that you're provided. If you don't do it, the program will likely need to repeat your work. Now, let's overview the actual conversation at the door.
All right, thanks, Jason. My buddy, Jason. All right. What questions and or thoughts do we have about these persuasion conversations? Okay. Yeah, no. All great questions. A lot of that we're going to cover right now. And really quickly, I just want to review just the parts of the persuasion conversation. Minus the data part, we'll get into all of that. What are those 4 main parts that we're going to talk about? First one right off the bat. Yeah, relating. The as someone who part, right? You understand. You have a connection with this person, right? You're not just talking at, you're talking with. It's a dialogue, not a monologue. Actually, write that down. I like that a lot. Put that up there. Dialogue, not monologue. Part 2. We're going to emphasize values that you share, right? So, I don't know, some person's a doctor or works in the medical field. Oh my gosh, no way. My uncle, yeah, he's an optometrist or something of that nature. Like, you care about people. You care about helping other people. That's something that they obviously share with you. So lean into that. You're going to share this impact. All right. Right. Like, oh my gosh, I totally think that's a problem too. Well, you know who has the solution? Bernardo. You bet. Absolutely. And then you just want to draw a contrast. Like he's doing, the other guy, he's doing X. We don't like that. We just talked about our relationship, man. Bernardo's going to fix it. You should probably vote for Bernardo. Not say like that. That would definitely not be it. But just bring up the differences. Highlight that, Bernardo stands for X and actually he blah, 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 blah. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that is the ideal scenario. Not everything will work that way. Life is not so crisp and clean. But those are some of the main takeaways. Now, what I want us to focus on here in this next conversation is we're going to actually watch this like framework in action. All right. We're going to watch 2 actors, an organizer and a persuadable voter. And just as you watch these next videos, just write down what you see, and then just what did they do well, what did they not do well. So let's take a look.
We're back, and now we're going to focus on how to have the conversation. Similar to the commit to action conversation, you start with the basics. You're knocking on someone's door, and so you should introduce yourself. For example, hi, I'm Jason, your neighbor volunteering on behalf of congressional candidate X. Then, ask questions. And remember, when you ask questions, you need to listen to the answer. For example, have you made up your mind on who you'll be supporting this election? What issues matter most to you? You can't have an effective conversation in order to persuade someone unless you know a bit of information about the person you're talking to. That's why that's so incredibly important. Then, once you've got that information, you can engage the voter in conversation. There are 4 parts I'd like to teach you here. First, relate. This is where as someone who comes in. And here's how you use it in a sentence. For example, as someone who also cares a ton about healthcare, it's a really important issue to me too. Now, my example here was intentionally not intense, because I don't have to have had the same exact experience as the voter to relate to them. I just have to be honest about why the thing that they care about matters to me too. Second, values. That is, bring it to values. Specifically, the values that you share with the candidate and the reason you are here knocking on doors. For example, that's actually why I'm out here working for congressional candidate X. I believe that everyone has a right to health care.
All right, so we just covered that. Any questions about this framework? All right, yep, we have all those parts. I actually skipped ahead, so that is, pardon me on that. Now, we're going to actually look at these 2 actor scenarios. I want you to, once again, take a look at their actual performance. All right, what they do well, what could be improved upon, any acting tips. Let's take a look.
Mr. Ramzanali available?
Yeah, that's me.
Hi, my name's Will. I'm a volunteer here in Somerville with Davis for Congress. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm spending my day trying to talk to as many voters as I can about State Senator Davis because I know she can bring jobs back to this congressional district. Have you decided who you're going to vote for?
You know, I haven't. I've seen both candidates' signs out, but I haven't figured out how those issues impact me yet.
Totally makes sense. A lot of people are still making up their minds. Is there any particular issue that you care most about?
You know, I'd probably say the economy. I keep reading about how Wall Street's doing well, but I haven't seen my wages go up in a long time.
Totally get that. As someone who's been teaching here for the past 7 years, I haven't gotten a raise.
Yeah, actually, my wife is a teacher down the street, and I work at the pharmacy. It's the same for both of us.
What does your wife teach?
She teaches 4th grade.
Oh, cool. So I teach 7th grade, so I'll see her kids when they come down the block. Listen, a lot of us teachers are out today working for Senator Davis because we know she supports people like you and me. She believes that hard work should be rewarded with increased wages. And for the past 12 years, she's been working to make sure that her district has had the highest wage increases. And I want to make sure that we can bring that track record to our congressional district. In contrast, the other candidate doesn't support the minimum wage and supports cutting taxes, but only for the wealthy.
What you're saying about your candidate makes sense, and that's compelling, but I think I need to do a little bit more research on my own.
Yeah, no problem. Why don't you take some literature? And if you don't mind, we'll follow up with specific information about wages and jobs in the district. If
Sure.
you can get your email address?
Yeah, sure thing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Ramzanali.
All right, have a good one.
You too.
All right. Mr. Ramzanali just hasn't seen his wages go up. That's how people talk. But, all right, so what do we think about here? All right, yeah, they did X, okay. Yep, you remember to smile. Absolutely. Love that. You know, we're not going for fake happiness. You shouldn't ever be fake on this, but just you're being approachable, you're being likable, and you're being kind. Hi, I'm Owen. I'm with the Kamala Harris campaign. Blah 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 blah. He asked questions. He was inquisitive. He's gonna see his wife's kids. But he used that as someone who he related to this person. They had a real conversation. Like, you could see that, like, they're actually real with each other. So, absolutely. Now, all right, guys. It's your turn. It is your turn. It is time to role play. It is time to practice. It's time to, dust off these cobwebs. I'll take this information, fill it in your sinews. Get ready to go. So, on pages 55 and 56, we're going to have what's called a sample script, a persuasion script that you're going to then practice with a partner. So, I want you to pair up with someone you haven't worked with today, or perhaps that much in the past week so far. And then I want you to first read through the persuasion script for the Bernardo campaign. That's going to take about 5 minutes. Then I want you to do one role play. One person will be the organizer, person knocking. Other person will be the knockee, the person who's being organized, the voter. And then basically, quick 2-minute debrief after that. We'll time you guys out on how to do that. Then you'll switch. 5 minutes for the reverse role play. The person who was the voter is the organizer, and vice versa. So then we'll have 3 minutes after that to get a group check-in, and then we will debrief the day and we'll reflect on what we have. So is there any questions before we start? All right, me and the TAs, we're going to walk around. If you need an extra buddy or whatever, we can, one of our TAs can hop in for you. Awesome. All right, let's get into it. Okay. Great job, guys. I saw a lot of excellent practice going on there. I heard some chatter about we just haven't seen her wages gone up, like Mr. Ramzanali. Is crazy stuff. So basically, after this now, we are going to basically lean in and talk about our one-on-ones after this. But before that, I want everyone to reread our purpose and what we will do, and kind of debrief what we covered today. So we learned and applied voter contact, best practices on the phone, at the door, and online using ID and persuasion scripts. What we did, we recognized the different kinds of direct voter contact tactics and events and how each fit into a broader organizing strategy. We summarized and distinguished the different approaches and scripts used in direct voter contact. And we demonstrated knowledge of voter contact best practices by participating in a voter contact phone bank, canvas, and text bank using both ID and persuasion scripts. Do we have any questions? All right, guys. A really excellent job. Once again, immensely proud of you all. You have grown a lot this week, and this all matters. This is all going to add up. This is all going to get us 50% plus one. You are an essential component of this campaign, doing the most fun, most insane work ever of going to talk to random people. So, all right, get your coffee. We'll be back in 15.